Just as I was scandalized that you haven't seen The Office, I'm going to go ahead and confess. This is a safe space. It's a safe space.
Nobody's watching, yeah.
Nobody's watching. I've never read The Lord of the Rings.
What's wrong with you?
See, unlike you, I admit that there's something wrong with this, that this is a sign of disorder and of sinfulness. So mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. Welcome back to Closing the Social Distance. All work and no play make for pretty dull preaching. And I think that is a truth which my novice master at least always made sure to remind us. He said how it was important that friars not just work and study, but that they also read literature, watch movies, recreate. In other words, in order to be able to refresh the soul and keep you in touch with reality in all of its forms, which always leads us back to God, as long as we see the truth behind it.
And I think that's even more important in our current kind of lockdown situation, because now, in a sense, recreation is a certain amount of work, because as we don't have the experience of having the full staff here. We don't have the experience of having set duties. And so that means like the line between work and all the other things is sort of blurred. And so our inclination is, well, just to keep, just to do another project, just to get started on the next thing, just to keep going. And I'm sure, a lot of folks at home who are now working from home all of a sudden are experiencing the same kind of thing. Like, oh.
And other people are anxious, I think, about being lazy or feeling unproductive even as work takes over the whole day.
Yeah.
Because it's so unstructured.
You're working in every moment, but does it count?
Yeah. And at different points, people are, like, okay, you're just distracted. There's ennui or even achadia, It's like, it's not always like you have the nose to the grindstone, but because all of the normal parameters of work, leisure, of relaxing, of going home, of going out are gone, it creates this kind of weird sense in which you're just where you are and the day is just consumed.
So going to the office has this effect of like feeling like you're doing something even when you're not. Like my experience of working in an office before I entered the order is that there was a lot of not working going on, like just in general around. And you don't always add that up because you're at work, you're dressed in your work clothes, everybody around you is all work, and it just seems like it's a second while I go and get get another cup of coffee, chat with this person or that person. But then you're at home and you have this idea that, okay, well, I've got to get my day in, and then you start. There's this pressure to feel like you're always working.
Sure. I mean, we learned a lot of this from Michael Scott. But the truth...
Don't know who that is.
Really? You've never seen The Office?
Never.
You've never seen The Office?
It's like my brother's favorite show, but I've never seen it.
That is a crying shame. The Office is fantastic. But it exemplifies the truth, which you were just talking about, which is all the ways in which being at work isn't actually necessarily involving working. I was afraid for a moment when you said going to the office that you meant the divine office. You're there, but you're not really there. I felt that way too, to be quite honest with you on occasion. But the liturgy of the hours actually is really helpful in this sense because it at least breaks up the day.
Yeah.
It kind of gives you clear points of, all right, let's turn back to God, let's reset, let's have that renewed, reminder that He is God and we are not, and we exist to worship and praise Him. So,
although we created this liturgy marathon for ourselves to make sure the church was open by noon.
Absolutely, and that we could continue to broadcast on Sacred Heart Radio on Monday through Friday and all these things. So it does create a powerful block of prayer in the morning these days. What have you been doing to recreate in the genuine Utropalian sense?
Well, so a couple of nights ago, I actually had the privilege of being able to play a card game with Father Gabriel, who is as you see from an earlier episode, in Connecticut, saying mass for nuns. So he Skyped me, and the same with his friends that live in Texas, and we played through there's a game that you play through a web browser. So we actually had like 3 rounds of this game that we used to play in person via Skype, and it was as if though everything was normal.
Hey, no, that's awesome. I mean, I've had a few virtual happy hours with some fine chocolate milk enjoyed on different occasions, and it's really been awesome. I had a marathon kind of like conference call with a bunch of friends from college, which was incredible, and went on longer than I'm willing to admit in public. And so too with some other friars in the order. It's really been lovely to connect with people that way, and that always makes me feel renewed, because when you've been around the same people for 6 weeks, which is always kind of our situation, but we have so many others we're interacting with, hundreds of other people, and so when it's just really concentrated on these people, then it's nice it opens you up a little bit more. I think it's a good thing.
It is a strange experience. We were just kind of realizing a couple of days ago, or maybe it was even yesterday, about how many people we would see in a week before. Because, it's felt the whole time like we're still in contact. We have, this kind of mass media wave of reaching folks, and there's plenty of phone calls and video conferences. And a lot of the people who we were seeing the most, we're still in regular contact with, because they're people who've been preparing for marriage, or they're on the staff, or they're involved in certain groups. And then you realize that there are folks that I saw for 30 seconds every week, or 30 seconds every day, and haven't seen them now for a month. And it's a strange recognition how many people are in that category.
Yeah, no, that's very true, and it's a depressing thing, because that helps form the richness of social relationship. It's not just about your closest friends; it's about being open to communion on its different levels, including just being amiable and sociable and present to people who you come in contact with, and maybe not have a deep relationship with, but God has put these people in your path, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and there's something reassuring on a Sunday when you look out there and you see the sea of faces. But the more Sundays that you've done, especially the more Sundays you've done without given mass, you recognize the people who sit always in that seat.
Yep.
Whose names you might not know, but it's just reassuring that they're there.
Absolutely.
And they're not there.
And that is a terrible thing. What have you been doing to? Have you read anything or watched anything? I mean, that's what a lot of the country is up to. We're on Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus marathons. We haven't had as much time, I think, to get to do that.
I wish I could say I've been using this time to read. My leisure reading for this year has been to reread The Lord of the Rings. And I got through The Fellowship in December, so that was my December read. And then I started Two Towers. And then I kind of was reading on the plane when I went to go to visit some folks in Houston. That was in the middle of February. And I actually haven't made any progress since then.
Just as I was scandalized that you haven't seen The Office, I'm going to go ahead and confess. This is a safe space. It's a safe space.
Nobody's watching, yeah.
Nobody's watching. I've never read The Lord of the Rings.
What's wrong with you?
I see, unlike you, I admit that there's something wrong with this, that this is a sign of disorder and of sinfulness. So mea culpa, mea culpa. Brother Jonah Teller tried to get me to read The Lord of the Rings, but I just didn't start it, and therefore it's such a big thing, and I feel like I'm so far behind where everybody else is who's really into it that I just have never done it, never just gotten to.
Just do it. So this is my second reading, and my first reading, I was a little bit older than I should have been. Like I was in college. I think I actually saw the first movie before I started reading the books. But there's a richness that comes in kind of the rereading and understanding how beautiful Tolkien's world is.
Yeah, a great Catholic author. I have been reading Anthony Trollope, though.
Anthony Trollope is delightful. I love the Barchester stuff.
So I read the Barchester series back in the student tape, and it was fun because you would feel like you could identify different friars as being the different types of characters in the Barchester books.
They may have been Anglican and 19th century, but there were certain things that
there were certain perennials.
Certain things about church
like
politics.
We both know we lived with an Archdeacon Grantley. You know, we are going to name him, but we definitely lived with an Archdeacon Grantley. We lived with the different types, you know, and the Reverend Septimus Harding. You know, these are great types, and you just can't help but appreciate that. But right now, I'm starting another series of Trollope, which is the parliamentary novels, or the Palliser series. So I just read Can You Forgive Her, which some wags back in the 19th century rechristened Can You Stand Her, because they found the main heroine kind of incredibly obnoxious and indecisive. But I thought it was a great novel, and I'm now on to Phineas Finn. And I'm making much slower progress than I normally would because I'm only reading at night before I go to bed for a little bit. But it's been wonderful, and it's great to just immerse yourself in a world where coronavirus isn't a thing, you know, and where it's other stuff matters, you know, and that's I think deeply refreshing. So
now I don't know if you want to share this with the folks, but you've also been doing a community service of imposing your taste in film upon the friars.
You use the word impose. I would use the term sharing. Inviting others to participation. Can you say that The Hunt for Red October is not one of the finest pieces of cinema that you've seen?
It is delightful.
It is, absolutely. Just one ping, Vasily. One ping only, please. See, these are profound lessons. You know, watching Sean Connery try to speak Russian for the first 15 minutes of the movie, incredible. Mm-hmm. My dad has watched The Hunt for Red October, I would say in the upper scores of times. I'm not sure if it's past 100 or 200, but I mean it's surely
fourscore.
Yeah, maybe fourscore. Because he loves it, and I have to admit I now love it too. This was one of those movies that if we were flipping through the cable TV channels growing up, and it hit, you saw Hunt for Red October, we'd have to stop. And we would protest and say, Dad, no, we have the VHS, or we have the DVD, or it's available on 3 different streaming services. This one has commercials. It will take twice as long to watch.
Why don't we just put the DVD in?
We still have to stop. Because it's God's providence that we were meant to see that again, right then. But we've had some great movies. We watched Knives Out.
That was delightful.
That was awesome.
Fun. Yeah.
I can't believe I missed that. But it turns out that all 3 houses of formation in our province watched Knives Out on Easter Sunday, which is pretty cool. And it's a great and very funny movie, and we enjoyed that. And we've watched other great, cinema as well.
Here's the thing: I've requested exactly one movie, and it still hasn't been shown.
Listen. This is a matter of persuasion, of invitation, of caucusing, of gathering support. Of convincing people that it's their need, their want, their desire. You felt that desire to watch the Muppet movie. You just didn't know it until I told you that you had that desire.
Maybe I just need to make an offer that can't be refused.
I think that might well be the case. In the meantime, let us make an offer to you that you can't refuse, which is to please keep praying for us, because we are praying for you. Take some time for good recreation when you can, even in the midst of the craziness. Whether you feel like you're overworked, or whether you feel like you're a lazy bum, or somewhere in between, we're all there in different ways. And so make sure to set some time apart and to break up the routine a little bit. In the meantime, I hope that all is well, and we look forward to seeing you soon, next time on Closing the Social Distance.